The next example I'm going to show y'all comes from number 7 on the review. Okay, the graph of a quadratic parent function. So we know right away we're working with the quadratic function. F of x equals x squared is transformed to create g of x. And it tells us that it's going to be transformed using these 3 steps underneath it. One is that it's going to be vertically stretched by a factor of 2. It's going to be reflected over the x-axis and then translated 4 units left and 3 units up. So some knowledge you have to have for this question before you can even approach it is that anytime you're dealing with a quadratic transformation, you're going to be starting in that vertex form. So we would look at our formula chart for the vertex form of a quadratic function, which is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And then we need to apply those transformations. So here in step 1, it says that it's vertically stretched by a factor of 2. A vertical stretch is going to affect your a value. So that a value is now going to become 2. So we're going to have, instead of y equals a, we're going to have y equals 2. The next step says that it's reflected over the x-axis. That's also an a value change. A reflection means that our graph is now going down. So I'm going to put a negative sign in front of the 2 because that indicates a reflection. The next step says that it's translated 4 units to the left. Okay, so 4 units to the left is a horizontal translation. And so because it's x minus h, that means we'll be moving in the negative direction 4. So x minus negative 4 is going to turn into plus 4. So my h is now going to be a negative 4, but that's going to simplify to plus 4. And then don't forget that there's a square on the outside of those parentheses, so it's x plus 4 squared. And then 3 units up is going to be a vertical shift, so that's my k value. So that's going to be plus 3 on the outside of those parentheses. Okay, and then there's a follow-up question. So there's our equation. Now, what is the value of g of negative 2? We just wrote the equation for g of x, and it's asking us for the value of g of negative 2. So that means anywhere you see the letter x, you need to replace it with the number negative 2. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. I have y equals negative 2 times, instead of the letter x, this is where I'm going to replace it with negative 2. So I'm going to have negative 2 plus 4 squared plus 3. Okay, and then I'm going to simplify, and it's really important that you follow the order of operations. Remember, your order of operations is your grouping symbols first, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, GEMDAS, okay, grouping symbols first. And in this case, our grouping symbols are the parentheses. So I'm going to simplify what's inside of the parentheses. Negative 2 plus 4 becomes 2. So now I'm going to have negative 2 times 2 squared plus 3. I still have like some grouping symbols and parentheses to work out. So this 2 squared becomes 4. So now I've got negative 2 times 4 plus 3. Okay, and then multiply that negative 2 times 4. That's negative 8. Negative 8 plus 3 is going to be equal to negative 5. So the value of g of negative 2 is negative 5. So that's what I'm going to bubble in over here. It's really hard to bubble on this thing. Negative 5. Okay, and do make sure you're bubbling in that grid because a lot of y'all forget that. And even though I can see your work, if we're looking at a standardized test, they don't care about your work. They care about your answer. I care about your work, but make sure you're doing your answer as well.